With that in mind, we'd like to kick off today's session just with a short welcome introduction by my Deputy Director, Kelvin Tan from NUS Enterprise. Kelvin, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to this place. The weather is good. It's a bit hot outside, so coming indoor is great because we have good aircon. And later, we have good food also. It's better than the airline food, I think. Just to tease you now. Because I've got more to share. Yeah. Okay, but on a serious note, we certainly welcome on behalf of NUS Enterprise and SIA everyone to Block71. While this is going to be the start of SIA AppChallenge for the 4th year, NUS Enterprise has been a very special partner for Singapore Airlines for the last 3 years. And in fact, later Jeremy will share more about what we've done over the last 3 years. Just a short statistics, I think we have nearly over 200 applications for the last 3 years. So this year, we have set even higher targets because it's going global. And again, I will let the cat out of the bag. More will be shared later by Singapore Airlines. This is one of the most exciting corporate challenges that we look forward to every year. And we're glad that it's back because we are working with Singapore Airlines, who has received one of the best airline awards in the Skytrax award every year. And we congratulate them for this award. It always gives me a lot of comfort and a feel of professionalism in different airports that I travel when I see Singapore Airlines. It feels like home. So we are so happy to welcome Singapore Airlines to this Block71 family and home as well. And this is the kickoff of this event. On the Singapore and the country level, I think most of you are aware that this is a very busy hub. We have about 100, the latest I see is we have 100 airlines flying to 400 cities in 400 cities. And by 2025, at least 1 million flights will zip through Singapore airport every day. And that's amazing statistics we're talking about. So without much ado, I would like to thank again Singapore Airlines for being with us. Also this year in our record-breaking Fest Unbound 2018, where they were presenting and sharing in a forum about the aviation industry. And today, bring the team from Singapore Airlines to Block71 to share their experiences. And of course, you all should be asking a lot of questions because they're going to share with you more ideas. They want to mentor the teams. They will run through this competition. So I'll now hand over to Alvin, who is our MC today, to introduce the rest of the team who will be sharing the topic with you. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Kelvin. So, following this, we will get to hear more about Singapore Airlines through this evening itself, and following that, we will give a short overview about what's happening for this year's AppChallenge 2018. After that, we'll have a panel session to discuss about air travel and the aviation innovation landscape itself. But first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Jerome, Vice President for Digital Innovation from Singapore Airlines. Just say a few words. Jerome.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I haven't prepared much. I'm not using PowerPoint usually. Thank you very much for being here. I'm very new in Singapore Airlines. I just joined 5 weeks ago. So no grant to me for this great initiatives. The team I'm working with is really, really great team. Although I'm very new in this area here, I'm living in Singapore since 2006. So I've been here for a while, and I see a few familiar faces here already. So I haven't really prepared something. I just want to give you maybe a menu of some ideas I can talk about. I want to keep it short, so I'm not going to take more than 10 minutes. We're going to have a panel session, so we're probably going to be able to ask questions later on. But what I wanted to know is if you want to. So number one, my background. I'm not a typical corporate animal, so to say. I'm more an entrepreneur. I've spent most of my life running businesses. First in France and then in Singapore since 2006. Actually, my last business brought me to Singapore. And I sold my last business. It's a long story, I could tell you, but it was a great experience. I came to Singapore and I acquired the company here because our business was doing quite well in France, and I acquired the company here in Singapore, and it ended up becoming a catastrophe. The company really didn't take off, and the business was miserable for almost a year. I lost pretty much everything, including my marriage, in the story. But surprisingly, and for some reason, at some point, the business really started to take off. And it became bigger than our business in Europe after 4 years. And I ended up selling my company to a big European company called Chatbot in 2010. And this is when I decided to work for a corporate organization and spend my time. I was 45 years old and now 50 now. So I was younger than that actually. But I decided to join the corporate world just because I felt that time was coming for me to transmit and to try to share what I've learned in my entrepreneurial experience. And it's interesting because joining big organization and helping them with go to market, speak to market, and innovating is every time very, very interesting. There's a bit of a mixture of cultural shock, and so I'm asked to come and try to challenge the status quo, push the walls, or whatever you name it, and it makes my life very, very exciting and interesting. I usually don't make a long career in the company I'm joining, as you can imagine, because my role is really to try to push the machine to its limit in terms of changing things, right? So yes, so a few things I can talk about if you want. I can share about my experience as an entrepreneur, and maybe without pontificating, because that's something I would like to avoid. But a few things I've learned in my experience. I can tell a little bit about what we do at Singapore Airlines in terms of digital innovation, what it means to us, what we expect from you would be maybe another point, and what you can expect from us, right? So where do you want me to start from? Hey, have you flew Singapore? Did you fly Singapore Airlines before? How many? Raise your hands. How many people? All right. Oh. Did you like it? Yeah. Of course, right? Yeah, that's the reason. Actually, that's the reason why I really joined the company. And when I saw this kind of opportunity, innovation at Singapore Airlines, I was like, wow, that's very interesting. Let's try that. Singapore Airlines has something very unique. There is this emotional connection. There are not many brands in the world which have this emotional connection to people, right? We can mention a handful of them. Maybe Apple goes beyond, right? Much beyond the devices they provide to us, right? Club Med might be another one. But there are not many names which cross my mind right now. Of course, this is not due to innovation itself, right? This is the heritage which has been carried on by the company over the last decades. And so, how can innovation actually help that? That's what keeps me awake at night. Because see, there is a flip side with innovation, right? With digitalization, it's sometimes lack of a human dimension. We can dehumanize the relationship with customers, so that's something we would like to avoid, because we want to preserve this huge capital which has been created, this heritage that we have as a brand, which is very important to us, to our art. So that's something I would like to share with you, because it's very important. Whatever we do, whatever initiative we're going to take, we're always going to have in mind that we want it to be a very qualitative experience with our customers or travelers, so that we keep this very unique, excellence in terms of servicing them. Okay, that's something which will always be in my mind, because there is a lot of risk behind digitalization sometimes. So, and I would just want to share a quote, maybe which explains this very well. And actually, the reason why I'm with this company and why I'm very, very excited to be working with this team of innovative people. This quote says something like, people won't necessarily remember what you say. I don't think you're gonna remember a lot of what I said tonight. People won't necessarily remember what you did, but people will always remember the way you made them feel. People will always remember the way you made them feel. If you go back home tonight and you get to your bed, think about that. Think about how far away back in the memories you can go when feelings get involved, right? Or souvenirs, the oldest souvenirs we have would always be related to things we felt, things which make us feel really good or feel really bad. And I think that's something which keeps in my mind all the time, how can we keep this, and how can we, because people feel good about Singapore Airlines, and they feel safe flying with Singapore Airlines. That's something we want to keep and we want to improve as we move on. And it takes, of course, many, many dimensions. We could develop this later on. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share, which is really close to my heart and important when it comes to innovation. So what do you want me to talk about a little bit more about my experience and yeah.
Why does Singapore Airlines have a VP of digital innovation? What are they sort of trying to get out of it?
You mean a French guy?
Yeah. not you, but just in general.
No. No. Actually, thank you for this question. So it leads me to explain what we want to do with digital innovation. Singapore Airlines, and now I'm taking off my VP hat for 1 second. Singapore Airlines, my perception as a newcomer has been that, and that's why it triggered my attention. Singapore Airlines is a company which is quite introverted, right? Singapore Airlines doesn't blast message every morning about innovation, about what we do, right? And when I was outside of the company, I was looking at the company, I was like, okay, I don't really know, but they don't seem to be very active in innovation. But actually, when I joined the company, I was extremely surprised by the density of things which happen there. But as a cultural fact, Singapore Airlines is not communicating a lot. Actually, Singapore Airlines will communicate about things when they are actually done, when they are there, when they exist. And I've been working for the last 3 years with an American company where when they have an idea, they just blast it out, right? So that's a cultural difference. Now to your question, why did they decide to build a team and to set a team and recruit me on top of that, right? Because I'm French, and Singapore Airlines is a very Singaporean cultural, company, right? Typically, I've spent the last 12 years here. Number one, and number two, I have an entrepreneur background, so that's probably where they picked something interesting. I think that what Singapore Airlines decided early this year and end of last year, what the CEO decided is to launch this blueprint, this digital blueprint initiative, right? So what does that mean? This means that the CEO and the senior leadership team committed on investing in initiatives for mainly three things. First of all, figuring out how we can bring problems out into the ecosystem. For example, you guys, how can you help us thinking differently, thinking out of the box, and not always having this reflex of what is not invented here is not good, right? Number one. Number two, bringing solutions in. When I say solutions in, not necessarily with precise things in mind. Ideas, solution, which might be core to our business or which might be adjacent to our business, right? New ideas, no limitation. As long as it's something which resonates to us and which is driven by qualitative team, we're gonna have a serious look at that. And the third thing is about precisely changing the culture in the company. Singapore Airlines has a history of being extremely disciplined, extremely rigorous. I tell you, I've been working for some very, very high discipline company when it comes to technology and product management. Amadeus being one of those companies I've been working for. Singapore Airlines is just another level. And the reason why is because safety is at the core of our preoccupation every day and every night, right? So this rigor, this discipline comes from the imperative of safetyness, right? And when you are very disciplined and very structured and very process oriented, thinking out of the box is not what you're gonna do every day, right? So that's where this cultural element comes into control. How can we help people, to come up, show up with ideas? Sometimes they might be crazy ideas. They might be thinking they would not naturally raise their voice, speak up in meetings, right, in front of their boss, going off track, right? They won't do that. So what we want to do with the innovation unit is create a place where they feel safe, right? So they can come to us, they can come in our lab because we're gonna have a physical lab, and they can come with and share ideas. And by the way, they go on the platform, they submit an idea, and if we believe the idea has an interesting potential, we reach out to them and bring them to the lab, and they can feel safe. They're not gonna be judged. They're gonna talk to us, and honestly, we have a very limited experience in the airline business, right? My team and I. So we're not gonna have like this connotation and this, what are you talking about? This doesn't make sense. We're always gonna take a very genuine approach to it. And so we believe that's the minimum viable condition we need to create to, stimulate that cultural change. And of course, over the next 3 years, our objective is to reach out to 10 to 15% of the employees at Singapore Airlines, having joined this, having been enrolled into that journey, having done something, having submitted something. Because I don't remember which study said this, but there is a study, a very serious study, which says, maybe Gartner did that, which says that when 10 to 50% of your employees, of your staff, have been at some point enrolled by doing something related to innovation, you trigger something which is kicking in the cultural change and propagating the cultural change within the organization, right? So that's what we're looking at, 10 to 15% of the employees, over 20,000 people, right? And we're progressing really well with that. Does that answer your question? And of course, they
it's great context.
need a guy to run that team, and that happened to him. Something else you want me to talk about? What? Yeah?
Where do you need the most, where does Singapore Airlines need the innovation the most, in which, like you talked about innovation being also a bit more human, etc. Can you tell us a bit more about it? And my second question is like, do you have a particular customer, like the type of tourist in mind also where you want to address innovation? Because not all your customers, your customers are very diverse at the end of the day.
Wow, yeah, those are complex questions. The second one might be simple. So let me address the second one. No, of course, Singapore Airlines is known as being kind of a up-range, high airline, and we have a strong base of business travelers. This being said, we are not focusing only and essentially on business travelers or corporate travelers, right? I don't think I've ever heard since I joined that we don't want to make sure that every single traveler taking our airline feels good and better and safer flying with us when we're using innovation. To the first question, it's a very good one. I think that yes, we have. So when I said bringing problems out, our business units, they know their challenges, right? They have they know the direction they want to follow, right? And they know what are the obstacles, right? Because they know the direction, but they might not know how to get there, right, in the next 3 to 5 years. So this is where they come to us, because if they don't have an answer, a very immediate answer from the IT organization, right? Because the IT organization, has no resources, or because it would take 2 years, or because whatever. Because the IT organization has to work with the legacy, right? Again, safety, etc. Right? So they would come to us, and then we'll try to look at an alternative way to do it. Right? So that's number one. But you never know where innovation is going to come from. So as much as we are now trying to make sure that we empathize with the business unit, that we serve them, that we help them, because that's our main mission. That's my job. My job is to catch up with the SVPs, the business unit leaders, and make sure that I understand their business problems, right? And when there is a straight path to solution, my team is a solutionist team. So they look at how can we build solutions with external partners. You, for example. But it's not the only mission. And increasingly we'll have to look at disruptive things, at the cross junctions of technology, disruptive technologies, in our business core or business related domain. For example, blockchain as a disruptive technology, and at the cross-section of loyalty program or payment or you name it, right? Or etc. Internet of Things at the cross-section of how do we run operations on the ground, right? Tracking things, tracking people, etc. and optimizing that. It's a huge mission, it's a huge ambition, and we have to focus. So for the next probably 12, 18, 24 months, we're gonna pick our battle. We're gonna pick our battle because we cannot do everything. And there are things which are more urgent or which have more business outcome or potential service enhancement, reachable, feasible outcomes. So that's where we are focusing now. And that's why the problem and challenges we have submitted through the AppChallenge, some of them are wide open because we don't want to stop people from thinking very broadly. They might come up with something we haven't even thought about. And some of the problem statements are quite directive and more operational. We intentionally mixed both because we know that some startups, some students might feel more comfortable more creative in approaching a broad problem, and some of them might need more direction from the beginning, right? I don't know if I answered the question, just trying. All right. So I have to end my little preliminary. Sorry for not having prepared much, but I wanted to touch the things which really count a lot for us as an innovation team. Thank you for being here. There is a very interesting prize for the winners, but even though I don't think it's the main purpose of that, the main purpose for us is really to engage with you guys because the horsepower we have here in the room and the horsepower we have out there in the ecosystem is no comparable to the horsepower we have in-house. There's no comparison, right, as you can imagine. So stimulating our brains, stimulating this horsepower, and getting a fraction of that to help us improving our customer experience and our business is what we're looking at. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jerome. I have two administrative announcements to make. First and foremost, we do actually have some seats still in the middle of the front part. I mean, we're seeing a bit of plunging up towards the end. So please help, make yourselves, move up to the front if it helps you to become a bit more comfortable, if that's okay with you. All right. Secondly, we are very happy to announce that the AppChallenge website has gone live. If you're interested, at some of the banners that we place around here at this event space, you can actually use the QR code and you can actually access the AppChallenge website to find out more, to start registering and start finding out more resources about it. All right. My name is Alvin. So for the next segment, I'm going to pass you on to another Alvin Chan, my working counterpart from Singapore Airlines. And he's going to tell you a bit more about Singapore Airlines itself and also about the AppChallenge 2018. All right, Alvin?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for spending the better time of your evening here with us. Before I start, I will be here for the next 3 to 4 hours. So if you please make yourself comfortable with some of the seats. We don't want you disrupting halfway by leaving the room or. Okay, I'm kidding. Ordinarily, in the SIA context, I think I'm going to echo a lot of what Jerome has said. Ordinarily, this will be a full-blown formal presentation, men in suit talking to ladies and gentlemen in suit. Today, we are ditching all of that, and we're having none of that. So I hope to keep this casual. I hope to share with you some interesting insights. After the very inspiring session by Jerome, some of you may be thinking, yeah, I don't want to see this young punk talking to me. But I bring with you some hopefully pretty interesting information that I've successfully pilfered from SIA. And I will share this within the realms of what I can say without threatening the existence of my employment at SIA. So today I come to you with an agenda to participate in the SIA AppChallenge. It's our annual flagship event. But before I go into this event, I hope to build a bigger picture of what SIA is doing and where we are. Okay, many of us will be familiar with SIA, but how many of us actually know what SIA truly is beyond what we iconically know through the Kebaya, good service, and the Singapore Girl? So today I hope for us to have a better understanding of SIA as a group, some of our initiatives and strategy. Yeah, and then with that leading into where SIA AppChallenge actually flows in through this whole big picture. Some of the accolades we have picked up recently, as you guys, most of you will be familiar with, Skytrax, TripAdvisor, and echoing what Jerome has said on the emotional appeal of SIA, we have been in the Fortune's magazine top 50 world's most admired company for the past 10 years consecutively. This year we are number 32. Okay. So in this quick overview, I hope to share with you an overview of our business, as well as some of the strategies and initiatives we have been undertaking, because not a lot of these are actually very loudly shouted at. Some key stats: we employ some 22,000 staff. Sorry.
Is this going to be available on the web?
No.
No.
So yes, take notes if you want. We employ some 22,000 staff globally across multiple cities. Judging by traffic and revenue, we are definitely one of the top players in the world, with extended partnerships through our membership in Star Alliance. When you think about Singapore Airlines, many of us just think, airline transport operator going from point A to point B. Logistics keyword come to mind, like hub and spoke model, things like that. But we're actually so much more. We have the premium airline where everyone knows, Singapore Airlines. We also have a regional airline, Sia App. Beyond that, we have a budget airline as well, Scoot. And even beyond that, we have multiple stake and interest in travel-related entities. For example, the engineering company, maintaining the health of not just our own aircraft, but the Star Alliance aircraft as well. We have other subsidiaries and associated companies like TradeWinds and some other things that perhaps is not too convenient for me to share right now, lest you do not see me at SIA anymore. Service and network, things that have key elements of the strategy that have always been at the heart and core of our strategy, providing good service and extending our reach globally to capture market share and retain the presence of our customer. What people do not see is innovation, what actually goes behind the scenes, what SIA is actually doing to deliver on modern technologies to help retain our customer and provide a more holistic customer experience. Late last year, SIA launched a digital innovation blueprint, basically to capitalize on modern technologies in a more comprehensive and structured manner so that we could tap on what's developing the tech ecosystem and bring it back into a more operationally concise framework for our business units to deliver value and productivity through their operations. The purpose of this blueprint, twofold. One, to develop new competitive advantage to remain relevant in the ever-changing aviation landscape. And two, to build an open innovation culture, collaborating with startups and the tech ecosystem, be it accelerators, incubators, research institutions, venture funds, and so on. The approach would be taking problems out and from what has gone out, finding solutions to bring in. That is largely centered on building strong ecosystem partners. We have forged quite a few partnerships with the likes of Plug and Play, Microsoft, but none as strong as what we have done with NUS Enterprise. So this event here is facilitated and organized by NUS, but they are beyond just an event partner for us. They are doing so much more in this startup ecosystem for us. One of the things that will be released soon is a joint accelerator program between SIA and NUS Enterprise. So stay tuned for that. Jerome has mentioned some of the key initiatives that we have launched in recent times. Again, many of them were not wildly shouted or screamed at, but there's been quite a lot of things going on. We have our KrisFlyer wallet. I'll just cover them in brief detail. We have our KrisFlyer wallet, or KrisPay, which is delivering on blockchain technologies to help you spend and accumulate miles. Some have said, yeah, the conversion rate isn't fantastic, but think about it. If you fly once, just because it's a promo and you get some miles, you don't know what to do with it, a free sandwich is better than nothing, right? We have our Kris Chatbot. So this is a chatbot that Kevin is Wenson here yet? Okay. So one of our guys who is part of the chatbot team will be coming, and you can feel free to spar with him on this technology. the Chris Chatbot was built recently to direct calls away from our call center towards more tech-savvy, the younger millennials who are comfortable, who prefer not waiting minutes to speak to someone, but rather just find some of their queries online. Regarding chatbot, regarding the chatbot, it's our own internal chatbot, and that makes it very fast to train as well. The AppChallenge queries can also be answered with by our Chris chatbot. So that's how fast we actually took to train the chatbot to answer AppChallenge queries. VR for training, perhaps more on the engineering side, where we use technologies to accelerate the learning and training process. Likewise, for voice-assisted workflow, instead of going through a manual process taking notes, now we lever on voice technologies to expedite the workflow system. And that brings me to the team that I belong, of which Jerome is heading, this Digital Innovation Lab team, formed to spearhead a few different initiatives. We will have a physical lab to collaborate with startups and tech partners in a few months to come. But more importantly, this team is meant to collaborate with startups to provide more longevity in SIA's partnerships with startups and tech providers. One of the key initiatives is also our dedicated accelerator program, again with NUS Enterprise. And that's where it leads me to the SIA AppChallenge. Again, one of the ways the team, the Digital Innovation Lab team, actually turned to the crowd to source for ideas that we can take back to the group to address our business unit problem statements. Here's a quick video of what actually happened last year, just some of the highlights. Yeah, can we from there? Yep. From the digital innovation side, but we can't get a PowerPoint presentation too.
This year, we have a record close to about 550 participants. We have started this particular AppChallenge some 3 years ago. It's the third AppChallenge that we have held. For the first time, however, we are going beyond Singapore, including San Francisco and Jakarta. We will look at what else we can do to expand that further going forward. I think we will not be limiting our engagement with the millennials and talent in the digital world just during this AppChallenge period. We're going to look at ways in which we can engage the community, the larger community, in a more continuous manner.
So the SIA Challenge has been an amazing experience. We got to really try out a lot of different fields in terms of like coding, in terms of like designing for the products that we wanted to. Because of the huge variety of challenges that were offered, like we felt like we were quite able to consider all the different challenges and figure out which one was one that we could tackle the best.
This is my second time participating in hackathon, and I really like how well structured this hackathon is, and also it integrates basically how we are going to apply technology knowledge into business, which is really rarely seen in other hackathons.
We just want to thank SIA for the opportunity. We got to work on a lot of interesting things, pick up a lot of skills that honestly we would not have on our own. The problems and the specific nature of the focus got us to really get down to nitty-gritty details on how we're going to implement it. And unlike most hackathons, we got to consider the business aspect of things, how it fit into the entire ecosystem, rather than just make one cool project and have it be a cool project.
So throughout the way, SIA has given us a lot of technical support, and they have also made the requirements very clear. So I really recommend this competition to everyone because it really helps to bring out the best here.
Okay, that was a bit laggy, but I guess you guys get the point. Anyway, stay tuned, this year's video will be much better. So for prizes, that's how we incentivize, right? we are largely sticking to what's the same. For the students, they have found this really attractive because it's a all expense paid trip to Silicon Valley on not just like one of your regular Chan Brothers tour, it's actually a tech trip. So it's there will be a tour guide, most likely either my co-chair Kevin or myself, bringing students to visit the likes of AWS, Google, Facebook on a quite private and exclusive tour to see what actually happens behind the scenes in the headquarters of some of these large tech conglomerates. Second prize, 50,000 KrisFlyer miles each member. That's enough to get you to Japan. And third prize, 30,000 KrisFlyer miles. That's enough to get you to Taiwan and Hong Kong. Then for the open category, sorry, no tour guides for you, but you can go to anywhere that SIA flies, in addition to a team price of 5,000, followed by 3,000 and 1,005. This year, we have 5 problem statements in contrast to, this is half of what we had last year because we found perhaps more focus would be better suited for the participants. We have 3 that are more customer facing and 2 that are more regarding operations. Our website is live, so do check out some of these banners that we have. We have 3 around here, one here, one at the main entrance, and one downstairs at the lift lobby. There is a QR code there, so scan it. It brings you to the website, which I will just browse through later to familiarize you with what we have built. The challenge statements are there, along with a short video starring some of our SIA executives on the problem statements. So I'll be covering them in brief, and in our presence today, we have actually one of the challenge owners, Chris Pop. So I will let him share his challenge statement on enabling the Chris Shop experience. But in the absence of the others, let me just run through what are their problems and how we hope to solicit your help through this platform. The first is mobile app engagement. So we have been relying on our companion app for the longest time, and now we are actually going to revamp the architecture, the infrastructural architecture. As such, we actually hope to build new mobile technologies into this system to make it more of a companion app that its name suggests it should be. Right now, the app is very functional, so it does what it should do, but there's so much potential for more. What I mean is, right now, the app just helps you search for tickets, buy tickets. But there is the potential for so much more given existing technologies. It could be, the app could actually help you much more on the pre-booking experience. It could help you on your on-flight experience, as well as your post-flight experience when you're actually traveling on the ground, based on the extensive data points we have collected from other customers flying to similar destinations, based on our cabin crew recommendations. There's so much potential, unfulfilled potential we could actually put into this app. And we need your ideas to teach us what's good, what's relevant, what are some of the more powerful apps like WeChat, how are they garnering all these user experience, how can we package all this into a relevant travel app that actually caters to the entire travel journey of the customer. Big problem here, offloaded passenger compensation process. Most airlines, of course, the exact figures would be secret, but some of us would have the unpleasant experience of being bumped off a flight. Most airlines actually practice this to maximize bookings, to maximize revenue, because not everyone that books a flight actually shows up, especially for the business travelers. Sometimes their plans get changed, things like that. However, when everyone shows up, then it's a problem for the airlines. Not only do we have to find an alternative for the passenger, we do have to provide compensation to keep them happy and retain them as a happy customer, or perhaps try to defray the unpleasantness of such an experience. This process is of course very taxing for our ground staff because they have to deal with the emotional abuse of passengers, understandably. They also have to figure out what sort of compensation could work. For some, maybe a $50 Changi airport voucher could work. They could eat at a nice restaurant, order burgers and lobsters, things like that, right? But if you are flying for business, you would miss your conference and it will make your entire trip worthless if you were to skip the conference date. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. It's also very vague. Some solutions could be, how can we identify who to bump off? Who would be the most pleasant to receive the lowest compensation to get kicked off? Or it could be, how can we enhance or optimize the offloading process? Perhaps we could find out as much about the customer as we can And we could inform them in advance, maybe 3 hours in advance before they leave their hotel or their home. We inform them that you're not getting on a 3 p.m. flight, please, go do some shopping, here's a $50 Orchard Road voucher on us, things like that. Inform them earlier so that they don't have to spend that waiting time at the airport. The next few statements are perhaps a little bit more specific. This is on tracking inventory usage. So right now, menial things that we consider menial and perhaps take for granted, like plates, cups, forks, and spoons, are customized by SIA, and we actually ship them to our overseas station from Singapore, where they get stored. And from there, we have absolutely no idea what happens to them. So we do not know how much is being uplifted onto each flight, onto each aircraft. As a result, due to our kiasi nature, we tend to overstock these things so that every aircraft will never face a shortage, and so the customer experience is never compromised. However, this adds a lot of storage costs and a lot of warehousing costs and uplifting costs for the aircraft, because on the ground, the warehouse is stocking a lot of unnecessary spares. On the aircraft, they are carrying a lot of unnecessary overheads that will not be used. So we are looking for solutions that could help us track how much is being uplifted, how much is being consumed, how much is being spent, so that we can optimize what's happening on the ground. Similar problem, except this time we are dealing with food and beverage on board. We want to, again, on the angle of optimization and reducing wastage, we want to track how much food is being wasted. To do so, we need to know how much food is being consumed, and then through simple math, differentiation, integration, things like that, plotting a curve, we could find out how much will actually be wasted. Right now, we have no idea of tracking how much is being wasted because it's a very manual process. Once an aircraft lands, we could manually count how much chicken is left, how much veggie is left, things like that. But it's a very manual process. The turnover for these cards is actually very important with very little time. And of course, I've been there, I've seen it. You will see it in the videos as well. It's not a very hygienic situation because the food has been there for 5 to 6 hours typically. It smells bad, it's not safe for staff, it's not a good working environment. So is there a way we could abuse technology to do that for us, do the counting? And if we know how much we uplift, we know how much is left, from there we know how much is being wasted. And that helps us optimize future flights. Chris shop experience. Now, Chris, would you like to share a bit more about your problem? Your challenge, rather.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris, and I run Chris Shop. It's not So, how many of you know about Chris Shop? Please raise your hand. Okay, so at least I'm quite comforted. Okay, maybe I share some background. So last year I had a conversation when I came back from overseas to take on this portfolio. So I had this conversation with my boss. So he shared with me that, look, Chris, we have 30 million passengers we carry every year. We have 4 million KrisFlyer members, very strong database. We have a very strong brand. Everybody trusted us. They trust us to put their lives on us. So we have, and also we have roughly about $800 million worth of KrisFlyer miles waiting to be redeemed on KrisShop.com. And lastly, we have 4 million app download, about 4 million app download. So we have a widely used app, and KrisShop.com is on it. So why aren't you generating $1 billion in sales revenue? Changi Airport, for perspective, carries 60 million passengers. They generate 2 billion. So KrisShop technically should be generating 1 billion, and we are far, far, far away from it. So that's my business challenge, how to generate that. Then coming to today, where are we in that situation? So traditionally, you know of airline retail, right? What airline retail is all about is selling from a catalog and from a sales card. So if you be on the flight, you see the crew pushing around a sales card, you know the size of the sales card. That's how big it can be. Then in recent years, airlines start to be smarter. We have e-commerce presence. So we have KrisShop.com, where you're allowed to order anything, and we will then deliver to home, like any e-commerce site, or we deliver to the flight, very innovative. The crew will hand the item to you. But when the items that is carried on board and handed to you is still consumed by the sales card. So back to now, what happened is, coincidentally last year on the trip to Shanghai, on alighting the plane, walking in front of me are two ladies, very young ladies, and each of them on one hand is holding a corner of a trash bag. And within the trash bag itself is, you can't count the number of lipsticks, perfumes, all the things that you can mention in one big trash bag, walking and trying to carry it all the way through customs, clear customs, and get out of the plane. So the first thought that comes to our mind is that, what if I can help her, both ladies, ease her experiences? What if I can use the cargo space, because I have unlimited cargo space? What if I can use my cargo space to carry all these items? So what if I can free myself away from selling on a sales card, make use of my cargo space, deliver anything I want, 42-inch TV, 5 or 10 cans of milk powder and all this. What if I can do that? I can free the whole airline retail from being constrained by a sales card, from being limited by the size of the sales card, the capacity of the sales card, and what I can carry with it. So that's my business challenge to you, is how can I use my cargo space? How can I allow someone to order something from me and then deliver it as a checked baggage? And for the whole experience to be seamless, such that customers feel secure that their items are with them, except that it's not holding in their hand, but underneath the cargo. So that's my challenge. And with that, hopefully we can break away from the traditional thinking that airline retail is about selling from a sales card. And then that gives me unlimited cargo space, unlimited capacity, and unlimited carriage, and unlimited types of merchandise that I can carry. And hopefully with that, I can reach the goal of $1 billion in sales. So that's my problem. Yeah.
Sorry, I think that's a bit too general. Sorry if I'm being
Yeah, sure.
asking. Because I felt that we actually supposed to have a assumption saying that the products we can choose some kind of more essential product or whatever we think like a science should target. Because I find like from the Chris Wire catalogs, it's boring. Like we can buy it in Amazon unless it's special.
Yes.
Then it's probably more interesting.
Correct. So, okay, so the selection of product, as in what kind of product we choose, that's also one way to improve the attractiveness of Chris Shop as an e-commerce portal. However, if I can first remove the constraint of size limitation, capacity limitation, and let people order as many items as they want, regardless of the size, and then have the ability to fulfill that, that will free me up first in terms of the ability to fulfill, and then product merchandising strategy is of course another aspect of getting the right product to our customers. Yeah.
What about, okay.
Sorry, but we do have more time and opportunities for questions and queries.
Okay.
Chris and Alvin are still here for the rest of the evening. So I'm sure there's a lot of queries, a lot of interest, a lot of burning questions and answers that we could find out, but we could have that towards the later part of the evening. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Okay, so quickly I'll just cover the criteria, followed by the timeline, and lastly I'll just bring you through a quick walkthrough of the website. All these are actually on the website. So it's largely broken down into technical competency. So we understand that some startups might actually have their secret sauce in here. So we are not asking you to divulge your secret sauce, but at least help us understand the technical architecture behind what you're building. We are also very much interested in innovation. So how different is your solution vis-a-vis what is out there in the market? So perhaps a little bit of market research is needed on what is out there and why is yours different, if any. More importantly, we are looking at the commercial value, so the business value of things. And lastly, the UX experience. This is a quick timeline. So we have just gone live, 15 August. Registration is now available. Unlike last year and most hackathons, you could actually submit your solution right away, like right now. If you don't, you actually have up to 6 weeks to do it. Submission date actually closes on 30th September, so you essentially have from now all the way to 30th September to make a submission. You can make multiple submissions, but only one on each problem statement. So what this means is, if you're attempting the Chris Shop experience, you can only make one submission on the Chris Shop experience. But your profile allows you to make one submission for Chris Shop one submission for the F&B one submission for the mobile app one, and so on. From 30th September to about 10 October, that's where the team will discuss with the business units which are the top few teams that we want to hear in person. These top few teams, 6 from the student category and 6 from the open category, will then come down to the final pitch happening on 27 October to pitch to a closed event comprising of our partners, sponsors, and SIA senior management. And then we have our post-event reception where there will be the prizes, there's going to be a post-drinks networking session, things so on and so forth. Again, we are always here, so if you have any queries, feel free to reach out to these platforms, email, there's always an FAQ site on the website itself, and on our Facebook page and mobile, there is a chatbot. Yeah. Can you show the website? This is the website that was literally launched minutes ago. Here you will find some of the key details. You have a brief. Sorry, stop. Teams will be in the size of 1 to 4, so we highly recommend you to come in more numbers so that there obviously tend to be a relationship between quality and quantity. If there are more people, perhaps it covers for some of your weaker areas and the quality of your submission might be stronger. So we recommend 2 to 4. But we do not want to isolate you if you have no friends. So if you have one, feel free. Yeah. Can you go to the statement details? Yeah. So much of what I've shared is actually all here. What we have done is we have put together a short, what we have put together is a short challenge statement right here. Then we have a video to help enhance that concept. And then we have a more detailed one, as well as what we actually hope to see from you. And in some cases, what we actually hope not to see, because we have perhaps already explored that and we know it doesn't work. So again, this website is live. Feel free to scan on the QR code to bring you to this site. Before I end, I actually like to let Rensen close up this session. So Rensen is part of the committee for this year. Interestingly, he has actually participated as a participant before. So I hope to let him share his experience on a participant and now on the other side of the coin as an organizing committee and what's different and exciting about this year. Say good start.
Of course, definitely. So last year I was my name is Rensen. I'm part of the organizing committee of AppChallenge, but as well as also a developer in the Chatbot team, which is a very recent initiative by Singapore Airlines. So last year I was a participant, this year part of the organizing committee. And what I can tell you is that of quite a number of hackathons I've been to, I find that the hackathon in the travel industry is one of the commercially complex ones, which makes it more interesting than any other hackathons, because there are many nuances in travel that are not found in our everyday lives, that it's not something that can be easily understood. And there are many problems and domain knowledge and data sets that are available in the travel industry that it is very enticing, it's very exciting to work on it. So last year I was working on this challenge, which is cabin crew recruitment. And we pitch it as one of the world's first airline to use a game to recruit potential cabin crews. So the app will highlight the app will show two questions to the participants, and the first one being a situational awareness test where we use a video as a question, and the user will respond to the question. Behind the scenes, we will use IBM Watson's personality insights to analyze what are the reactions by the user and then send it to the recruiter. So this can cut down hundreds of thousands of manpower costs and countless number of hours in sifting through all those resumes. We also have a second question where we test the cabin crew's pronunciation ability. So we'll give them a passage to read, those kind of messages that you hear when you're on the plane, And then we will use Google Natural Language Processing Service to calculate how accurate the spoken, how accurate they speak the text, and then also send the score to the recruiter, and that also can cut down countless number of hours and dollars of manpower cost. It's not just about AppChallenge. One of the most exciting things I found in SI this year is that a lot of things are changing, and you might have seen the news that there are many recent initiatives, whether it's the blockchain-enabled wallet or even a chatbot, and there are many things up down the line. So this is the year that SIA is truly transforming and is really throwing the problem sets out there for people to work on it and also have a chance to pitch at the finals. So I hope you will participate in the challenge. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Chris from Chris Shop, and also thank you to Renson, who was last year's AppChallenge participant and part of this year's AppChallenge committee. As mentioned, the AppChallenge has gone live, so if you want to find out more details, the AppChallenge team here, Alvin, myself, Renson, so on and so forth, will be hanging around during the dinner and the mingling networking parts. But up next, we're having a very exciting panel discussion on air travel and aviation innovation landscape. And for that, I'd like to introduce you to tonight's panel's moderator, Imran Khan. Imran, he's from Copenhagen.
Thank you very much. Sorry, my phone's there just so that I can keep an eye on the time, because obviously we're approaching dinner time and I don't want to take up more time than necessary. But thank you so much for coming here tonight and staying with us till the very last session of the day. But we're very lucky to be joined today by a group of very distinguished and informed panelists to help us discuss not only the theme for today, which is of course aviation and innovation in that landscape, but also to dive a little bit deeper. So can I invite our panelists for today, Jerome, Chunyang, Siu-Hun, and Zilia to come on stage and join me, please. Yeah, it's going to be very cozy.
I'm the lucky guy here.
So we're going to be going for about 30 minutes, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A from the audience. But first of all, thank you very much for joining us here today. I'd like to start off with you, Jerome, and just to help us understand a little bit more about what has prompted SIA's recent and upcoming initiatives for digital transformation. Like why now?
Yeah. Is this working? All right. Try the other one.
It's working? Yeah, fantastic.
So I partially answered to this question earlier during my presentation. I think why now is the airline industry is a very challenging industry. As you guys know, Singapore Airlines is doing well. I mean, this is a profitable company with a very unique position. The heritage, the brand heritage I talked about has been built over the last decades, right? This kind of exclusive positioning and brand quality is still based on excellence in terms of services. This being said, as you guys know, over the last few years, some new entrants, some new players came in. It's a bit similar to the phone industry, right? Apple was like very exclusive in terms of launching the iPhone. Now, when we're looking at the spectrum of phones available, smartphones, we have a lot of qualitatively equivalent products, quite cheaper. I'm not saying that our competitors are doing as well as we do in terms of service, but that's what they want to do. Singapore Airlines are still a little bit ahead of the curve, and there's something very unique to Singapore Airlines. You might agree with that or not, but I really believe in the bottom of my heart. So, but we have to challenge ourselves. We cannot just stay there and wait and believe that this will last forever. Right? That's the best way to fail, right? as you guys know. So I think that the senior leadership team has came to the conclusion that it's very challenging, but there's a huge opportunity out there. Improving the service, bringing it to the next level with digital innovation. And this takes a transformation process, of course, across the company. And this digital blueprint that Singapore Airlines has launched early this year is a very serious initiative. They take it very seriously. I got interviewed by the CEO. The CEO is in every single initiative that the innovation team takes in terms of prototyping. He's there. He's sitting with us. He's very committed and involved. So, and in terms of dollar spent, it's also something which is quite significant. We are launching a brand new lab, physical lab, at the sports club in Singapore, at the Singapore Airlines building. It's beautiful. So all these are very concrete signs, not just talking. And again, as I told you before, Singapore Airlines, in terms of culture, in terms of an enterprise culture, is not talking about stuff. It's like doing stuff and then talking about it. That's what it is all about.
Chun Young, maybe I'd like to jump to you next. You're from the Civil Aviation Authority of Singapore, right? And so maybe you can help us understand why innovation in air travel is so important to the Civil Aviation Authority, and what are you doing to support that innovation in Singapore?
So I'm Chun Young from the Aviation Industry Division from CAS, and our division is actually responsible for partnering a lot of the aviation community stakeholders. Of course, SIA is one big player, but of course the range of the community, you have the airport, you have the ground handlers, you have I think as Alvin mentioned earlier, we have the MRO, maintenance, repair and overhaul organizations. So a spectrum of companies that actually support the air transport sector. And we partner and co-drive some of this development, capability development and innovation efforts together as a sector to leverage on innovation to drive productivity improvement, and at the end of the day also a little bit for the sector as a whole, manpower development efforts, so that when we do a lot of this innovation and technology adoption drives, we need to make sure that actually our workers are there to support, and they also participate in the upskilling and the leveraging up of the technology adoption drives as well.
Have you had any experience in working with, I guess, developers and different startups to help, push some of the initiatives forward in the past?
Yeah, so the key part of CAS is that we do a lot of, we mainly primarily work with the companies. So for example, through SIA, it's not so much of a directly with CAS, because at the end of the day, we do not own the problem statements, as Alvin has mentioned. We are not the process owners, but collaborating with the partnerships, the ground handlers, and as well as facilitating a more sector level wide effort, because some of these solutions may not just be just SIA alone. We still need to work closely with the ground handlers. We need to work closely with the workers, the unions, the union leaders, and of course the government agencies, of which we are one, to get a more holistic view on this kind of challenges and derive solutions. And certainly for the vendors and solutions company, we do work closely. One of the government agencies that we work closely with is Enterprise Singapore. So they do a lot of collaboration, and they understand the startup scene quite well. They understand the SMEs quite well, and so we are in close contact with them to do a little bit of this partnerships and collaboration, where we might find the problem statement owners, and then of course pair them up with those that have solutions available or are in the right area of expertise to do this kind of development effort together.
I'd like to hear from Zelia next, because you are our sort of representative on the panel of startups and founders in that space. So maybe you can just tell us quickly a little bit about yourself and what your company really does.
Hey guys, so my name is Sia. I'm the co-founder of Anywhere. Anywhere is Asia's first and only surprise travel curator. I believe the only one in the world that sends you to less traveled destinations, and you only discover your destination at the airport. I spotted one Anywhere traveler in the crowd, so you can talk to him later. Yeah, so this is what we do. We started about a year ago, based in Singapore, but travelers come from all over the world and we fly them anywhere.
So why did you feel the need to establish such a company a year ago?
We fell into it. So since I was a child, I was really lucky to travel a lot with my family. Then I realized I really hated traveling. So I told my mom I was about 12. I told my mom I want to stop going on these family trips, because we were always going to the same places, taking the same photos, Disneyland, queuing up for the same souvenirs. So I hated it. Then when I was in poly, I realized that it's not traveling that I hated, but the way we traveled. We knew everything we were gonna do before we even left the house. What's the point, right? So after graduation, I had a job. I worked in luxury hospitality. Then I quit. I bought a one-way ticket to the furthest and cheapest place. Ended up somewhere in Sweden. And it turned out to be 6 months backpacking without a plan. Just traveling, staying with locals, going to the cheapest places, and ended in Ukraine. So that is when I realized traveling is about the journey, not the destination. And there's so many hidden places during my trip that I uncovered incidentally. Places that I don't even remember where I went or cannot pronounce. And I want to share these experiences with my friends back home, plus anywhere. So by enabling them to only discover where you're going at the airport, besides being spontaneous, you also remove the preconceived misperceptions people have about a destination. I mean, you have no choice, right? You're at the airport, you're going to take a plane, you're going to go, and the best stories come from there. And that is what Anywhere is all about.
Thank you so much. Sia, I'd like to jump to you because I think your perspective is a little bit more regional than it is local. So maybe you can, you have founded a company that you run as well. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that first.
Okay, so I run Web in Travel, which is a travel tech conference and media website. So we've been focused on basically travel tech we started in 2005. So the good news is there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur in the travel space. We run startup competitions twice a year. We ran one in Tokyo. I see some of our startups who've come through the community, Voyaging, Airbuy, So, and this year in Singapore, we had a record number of entries. We had close to 50 entries this year, with startups coming in from Finland, Israel, because Asia is where it is all happening. So everybody wants a slice of the Asia travel pie. So it's a really exciting time. So I think SIA doing this AppChallenge is a fantastic timing. I don't know if you want me to put into context how big the online travel market is, because
I think that would help, yes.
Okay, because I kind of prepared, well, I didn't prepare the slides, but I spoke at an airline conference in Sydney just last week, and I put together this set of slides, which comes from Focusrite, which is the sister company to Web and Travel based in the US. So they do intelligence around digital travel. And do we have the slides? Do we have the slides? Alvin? Adaga. Good. Okay. So really quickly, I'm just going to breeze you through and not bore you and with numbers, but it really shows you like the size of the market. And we think, for us, how many of you still use a travel agent to book your holidays? Okay, so it's still a big part of the market, right? So online travel is, by 2021, will basically cover only 48% of the total market. So when you think about that, right, it's still 52% offline. But it is the online growth that is outpacing the offline sector. So where this digital travel is outpacing. So secondly, by markets, clearly China is absolutely just leading the pack, right? Then third one is mobile. Mobile bookings already comprise 48% share. So people are booking on mobile in 2017 alone, right? So China, again, lion's share. And air has the highest penetration. So that you have like air penetration about 44%. So I just want to say something about your startup, right? So it's quite an interesting trend. In the past, people wanted choices. But I think there's just too many choices now. And actually people now say, make the decision for me, right? And do you know that we actually have to search, Expedia says this number, that people actually search 48 times before they actually book a flight. So that leads to a lot of consumer anxiety. So if anybody can make this process easier, that is a pain point in travel. There's an opportunity. The biggest growth is really from the online travel agencies. Everybody knows that, right? Booking.com, Expedia, they are absolutely outgrowing the market. The next two charts will show that they are controlling the distribution, and that is why I guess airlines like SIA, hotel groups are trying to gain back control of the inventory so that it's not going through this third parties. So those are the key trends that are happening in online travel. It's a really exciting time to be in a travel startup.
Thanks for touching on the sort of major pain points in the industry, and I'd like to get maybe everyone's input from the panel on this. I can start off with you, Chunyang. What would you say is a major pain point that exists right now in the aviation industry, and for businesses, perhaps from more B2B and more B2C customers?
I think for air travel specifically, at the end of the day, a lot of it boils down to passenger experience. And not just passenger experience on board, which the airlines are very much responsible for, or they are driving, but actually passengers on the ground as well. I mean, a simple example is today when you need to travel, why is it that you need to go to the airport 2 hours before? So then you have 2 hours of time that theoretically is wasted at the airport. And we do want to see, and of course, a lot of it maybe depend on operational requirements, whether it's baggage, whether it's security, whether it's checking processes. So some of this, leveraging technology, digitalization, data-driven operations, if we can, where we want to improve, we want to give the time essentially back to the passengers, and such that they then make use of their own time. This may not be the best for the airport because they want you to shop. Yeah, but at the end of the day, some of this capability development and productivity drives should lead to ultimately a better experience for the passenger.
So we've heard already a little to sort of reduce passenger anxiety when it comes to searching 48 times for booking a flight. We've heard about giving time back to the customer. Jerome, would you like to add something from your perspective?
Well, I really don't know what's going to happen, guys. I know one thing. I know that there's always going to be travel providers, and that there's always going to be travelers. Now what's happening in between them, it's going to change a lot. I love this reinventing the fundamental value proposition, right, to travel. That's I think things ideas like that which might become disruptive if they scale up. I think that yes, you're right saying that Expedia and Booking.com and all these guys are gigantic. You know? They were not here 10 years ago, right? But they are very, very, very much replaceable. Very much. A travel provider, whether it's an hotel chain, whether it's an airline, is probably also somewhat replaceable. But you know, there is something different in terms of the relation you build with travelers, right? You like the idea that you feel safe and you feel good when you travel, you know, when you sit on a plane. And I think those fundamental values will still be here in 10 years. Right, so that's what I think. But who knows?
Do you see emerging technologies like you hear a lot of buzzwords like AI and blockchain, but do you see them having a fundamental impact on how I guess the customer satisfaction and the making people's lives easier when it comes to traveling? Do you have a major impact?
Yeah, I think that I don't know what I don't know. But they might be in the blockchain, especially in the blockchain foundation, something which is very fundamentally disruptive in terms of intermediation. All this very, very much intermediated business with many, many layers of travelers, like succession, layers of people making money, right? I think that the blockchain is something which might completely disrupt that. How? I don't know. When? I don't know. But it's coming, for sure. Yeah, so AI, I think those are, I call them hygienic, you know, it's like an evolution, natural evolution of technology, and we'll be progressing on that like other airlines, and some might progress faster, some might progress slower. We improve a little bit experience here and there, it's important. But I think blockchain and data that's probably the two things where actually I put a lot of attention right now.
Can I share a couple of ideas that we are seeing in the market? So I saw one of the challenges for SIA was the app and the customer engagement journey, and that's where the space that everybody wants to own, right? Is that one app that follows you everywhere you travel. So there's a startup, I'm sure, I don't know if you know about Klook, right, which just raised another 200 million. They are the most funded startup in the tours and activities space, experiences. So experiences is a hot space right now. We are voyaging, Tusha from there. Is a hot space, and what Klook does is really not just experiences, but they want to keep you within the ecosystem, so that even before you leave Singapore and you're going to Tokyo, you can actually buy a SIM card from them, and then they take care of your taxi ride, so they keep you in the entire system. Everybody is fighting for that space, from Google to Booking and all that. So that's one opportunity. The other opportunity is voice. I think voice is already 47% of travel searches is by voice now. So people are not using it to book yet, but in terms of just searching, voice is one. Another opportunity is messaging. So like 6 of the world's top 10 apps are messaging now. Whether it's Line, Kakao, and all that. And in Japan, we have Line, which has actually invested like 33% into a travel meta search site. So we're seeing this sort of blurring of lines, where it's non-travel players really coming into travel. So those are the pain points that are being solved by other companies. The biggest pain points in travel airlines is B2B. Right? B2B is a big point to solve. B2C is kind of hard, but B2B is where the action is right now. Would you say, Jerome?
No, I agree with everything you said. I mean, maybe I don't have enough ground to disagree. But yeah, this topic is so complex. There's so much to say. What I can say is you're right. B2B blockchain is probably going to hit B2B a lot. You're exactly right. B2C, I mean, that's going to be e-commerce. They're going to try a value proposition which I believe is like broader, better. They're going to raise 200, was it 500? They're going to maybe be the next unicorn, and that's the way B2C is, right? You have every 5 years, we have another. Think about the guys we were in the place 10 years, 15 years ago. They're not here anymore, right? That's the nature of B2C, right? It's all about the power, the fuel you get into bringing your marketplace, right? So I don't know what's going to happen there, but B2B, you're right. The blockchain and data is really something which is at the same time frightening and fascinating, because you can imagine, right, the power of. Can you imagine what people know about you by just analyzing your Facebook browsing? I mean, they know more about you than you know about yourself. I did this experience with a Chinese company. Because in China, they don't have this limitation, right? They process your personal data freely. They have nice APIs, and they can play with your data, and they did it. They scored me. They scored my social behavior. They came up with things I didn't even know about myself, and it's true. I mean, I'm not kidding.
Are you open to sharing anything?
Anything I can, of course, yeah. Only decent, things. But look, what I'm trying to say here is that's absolutely fascinating, because if you can reach out to people with an offer, they might not even know they wanted it. Before they want it, you stimulate the demand, you create the demand. That's fascinating to me, and I don't know what's going to happen there, but definitely something big's going to happen there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the travel brands are investing in technology that will enable them to be like Spotify, to be like Netflix, so that every screen that comes up to you looks different every time you go into it. I think that's what the bookings and all Airbnb and all that are working on right now for sure.
Do you see that there's more maybe focus or innovation that's being poured into more B2C solution rather than B2B solutions? Is there would you like to see more of a focus on that, at least generally in your industry, from what you understand?
Okay, this one maybe I can take it a little bit more precisely. I think that travel distribution is a very complex ecosystem with many layers, many actors, and all these layers, all these actors, the GDS, travel agents, they have their own justification. Right? Whether the business is going or going down, they are here, and I think in the B2B space, the war is all about the intermediation. That's what it is about, and that's gonna happen. Now in the B2C space, it's a totally different. When you are a C-trip, your problem is to build the marketplace to become gigantic, to take market share everywhere. That's your problem, right? Your problem is really a marketing problem. 80% is marketing, 20% is, they would argue with that, but 80% is marketing, right? Growing faster, bigger, and 20% of it is like, okay, customer experience, the content, the quality of the content, the creation of the content. When you are a travel provider, it's the right opposite, right? It's all about 80% is all about the quality of the experience you provide, and 20% is about marketing, right? Singapore Airlines is not a marketing specialist, right? Clearly. So I don't know who is gonna win that ultimate battle. Is it the marketing guys? I think that the B2B operators, those who really leveraging on blockchain and leveraging on this disruptive technology can de-intermediate and gain the value chain, take more of the value chain. They will definitely be part of the game because they have more. Marketing is not what makes travel sustainable, right? It's like here and there and now. You can grow like on the next 2, 3, 5 years until there is another one which comes with another 200 million. Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, unless you have lots of money to spend. I mean, Expedia, the Expedia Group and Booking Holdings, they spend about $6 billion a year on Google. So basically they dominate. So customer acquisition is really, really expensive in travel. That's why we're seeing startups now going for B2B, right? You can build really nice, solid businesses in B2B, really. Especially in hospitality. The hospitality landscape is way more fragmented than airlines. I mean, how many airlines are there in the world, right? But hotels, there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands. So we've seen a lot of startups come up to solve revenue management problems, inventory management problems, F&B problems, restaurant reservations. So B2B, I think, unless you've got lots of money to burn, B2B is a kind of a good bet for a startup.
I'd like to switch gears now. Zelia, I'd like to hear from you. You started up a year ago, and I'm assuming, please correct me if I'm wrong, that a lot of your what you do is sort of engaging with larger corporates and government agencies to make sure that the experience you provide to customers is excellent. So maybe you can share with us, because I understand, I'm sure there are a lot of startups and developers in the room who are going to be applying for this challenge. What were some of the challenges that you faced early on, especially when it came to working with larger partners?
The classic one would be when we started for a couple of months. One day, Singapore Tourism Board, STB, called us and said we need to shut down because we need a license. We did not know that. I mean, right? Yeah, so that got us as a shock. So what do we do now? So big corporation, startup, very frustrating because it's the executives that call us. So not very pleasant interactions. So I got frustrated. I sent an email to the CEO of STB. We set up a meeting with their board. Amazing people, very smart. Yeah, we met the CEO, CTO, people. They didn't know what to do with us. They said, okay, you need to apply for a license, do this form. So they asked, are you guys a travel agent or a tech company? Okay, so what do we do? Because we are both. And yeah, so they did not know what to do with us. We did not know how to approach them. But we had a nice, long, transparent discussion. So transparency, very important. Yeah, and we fixed things out. They even gave us a grant. And now the CTO is one of our mentors. Yeah, so love this story. Yeah, so persevere and work with them. It's not that they don't care or they don't know. It's just that they don't understand, and we don't understand them. So just be transparent and honest and like talk things out. Yeah, that really helps.
So what would be like a piece of advice you'd give to startups to help, I guess, foster more successful relationships with legacy players, and at the same time, a piece of advice for legacy players to interact and successfully with startups?
I think it's the same with all the relationships, like even a marriage, is understanding. Because, like, for example, we spoke to some major airlines, not disclosing names, They were saying that the OTA is a mess at the back end. They can't do this, they can't do that. They're working with like many modules with like Skyscanner. Yeah, very complicated stuff. But to us, it's so easy. Why can't you give me your API and integrate to my website? So it's mutual understanding. And then they're frustrated with us. Why are you so straightforward and just telling me stuff like that when like I'm the CEO? Yeah, so it's mutual understanding. And then when they explain like the module, this and that, their roadmap, like things take months to move. Like it took us like I think almost half a year to do a partnership with an airline. Yeah, so yeah, I understand.
That's short.
Yeah, right? We're lucky.
I cannot believe I'm hearing this. Can I just add very, very quick on that? I really like what she said. I've been there for a while, as I told you. I just wanted to add this. The reason why this is very important to us, the way the AppChallenge, because there is something beyond that. There is something beyond the nice, tour trip to San Francisco, right? There is something we're looking at, which is figuring out who in there in this room and maybe the other people are really determined. We're not looking for the smartest guys. We're not looking for the sharpest one. We're looking for the ones who are like really determined to spend quality time, having the right attitude, working with us, and creating a mutual listening. And you're right, companies like us have done it wrong before because we exposed the wrong guys to these guys, right? So our job is to listen and to empathize with the problem of those startups. So I think that this mutual listening, mutual understanding, empathizing thing is very important. That's what we try to create. And I would be very attentive moving on maybe in an acceleration phase or maybe in an incubation phase. And why not investing in some of those startups? Who knows? I would be very attentive to the personality, how people behave in front of problems, the determination they have, because how they are able to pivot, how flexible they are. Right? That's the key thing for us. So for us, the AppChallenge is not just about having the very brilliant ideas and the sharpest guys. Right? It's really about getting in touch with people and trying to understand how determined they are and flexible they are at the same time to build value with us.
Thank you. So one last question for the panel. I'd like to start with you, Jingyan. I mean, we are in Singapore. I think what would be great to understand is what is Singapore's main strength when it comes to sort of fostering innovation in this space. Why should startups in this space be in Singapore to be able to either get their products off the ground or to get the kind of support that they're looking for?
I think for the air transport industry, it's quite clear that we are the leader. We have a strong, very strong airline in Singapore Airlines. We have a very strong airport in Changi Airport. And I would say that the strength of Singapore is also forward planning. So we see that we have significant investments in infrastructure. We have runway 3 coming out online towards the end of 2020, and we have a Changi East development that's coming up. So a lot of this, as we plan for Changi East that's going to come online, a lot of it is embracing innovation, driving technology adoption. We need to get a good sense such that we plan for it inbuilt and it's ready when Changi East comes online. And with a very strong community that works well together, that's where actually, like for example, for this AppChallenge, we can tap on not just our startups, our research institutes, our IHLs, our companies, and together that's where you can achieve very good results from what we see. And of course, from a government's perspective, we do come in and support where appropriate some of these efforts as well for the community.
Would anyone else like to add? Yeah. Why Singapore?
Well, I think Singapore was competitive. But I think there are a lot of other places that have come up that are very competitive startup areas. Singapore is very expensive. It's very expensive to hire. So the cost base has really risen for startups. So I think there are other places that are coming up. Bangkok, Philippines is phenomenal, Vietnam, Jakarta. So lots of places competing for startup capital. Actually, I just want to raise a point. I want to talk about shopping. I mean, it's a nice topic, right? Your challenge about the, your quiz shop. So what was interesting is airlines, the top 10 airlines last year earned $30 billion from ancillaries. which is, shopping. And now they're talking about launching new airlines, new type of airlines, where basically if you've got Wi-Fi on board, you've got a captive audience. You can actually sell them practically anything throughout the long flight, like 18 hours. What else is there to do? You can shop a lot, right? And I want to bring out an example of Peach Aviation in Japan. They are quite cool with their marketing, and they did a campaign with Volkswagen, and they actually sold 3 Volkswagen vehicles as part of their in-flight sales. And they then sold a condominium as well, So I think people are really, maybe bored or whatever, and say, hey, want to buy. So I
after one
think,
bottle of wine, right?
but 30 billion, and that's where I think airlines are actually putting in a lot of money, ancillaries. There are a lot of startups now coming out to help airlines sell ancillaries. So that's another area.
Jerome?
No, I mean, absolutely. So again, coming back to my very initial comment on Singapore Airlines is another animal, right? We are not built. Our business model is really serving, keeping this, intuitive personal relation with our customers. So we want to make sure that every initiative we're taking is not taking this away. So as much as I understand it might be applicable to, next-gen airlines, I think we need to make wise decisions when it comes to what we want to digitalize, what we want to digitalize, right? But ancillaries, when it fits with this model, is definitely something which is extremely strategic. So,
Really, I know you set up shop in Singapore. Good decision?
Yeah, something we went to why Singapore, of course we are based here, but we thought about registering even in like the Pacific Islands and all that, because tax-free, right? So we spoke to a lot of mentors and stuff. Why Singapore? Easy infrastructure, legal system is all set up, couple of grants, no one necessity. But the main thing, because we are B2C, Singapore, huge spending power. We are, I think, one of the top 3 global in terms of spending for travel, leisure travel. So for example, when we entered Malaysia, and then we realized, it's the currency, right, the exchange rate, so we can't charge the same, and this model doesn't really work there in terms of our pricing, so we had to do price adjustments. So average basket size is a lot, but of course, talent is expensive and stuff. We're hiring, by the way, just saying. Yeah, so talent is expensive, everything is expensive, marketing ads are expensive. For example, one ad, a video ad on Google Network in Malaysia can cost 1 cent ringgit. Over here, there's not 1 cent ringgit because of the currency exchange rate. 1 cent Singapore is the lowest, right, SGD. So yeah, it depends on what you are doing and which market you want to see.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to open up the floor to questions from the audience right now. So if you have any questions, just please feel free to raise your hand, introduce yourself, and we can probably get a mic to you. Yeah. Or not. But either way, I think the panelists will be around for dinner and networking, so feel free to approach them, ask your burning questions in private. But thank you very much for joining us here today, and I hope you enjoyed today's session. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Imran. Thank you, Lauren, Kunyan, Susan, and Celia. Thank you, our panelists. So, just to wrap things up, the AppChallenge has gone live. On behalf of Elvin and myself, the other Elvin, we hope you have a good time, and we'll be hanging around to answer some questions and queries. And in the meantime, enjoy the dinner and light refreshments and food and so forth. All right, thank you very much from the BLOCK71 team, and we wish you a pleasant evening.